Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jordan Sather, and I'll be your host for this video. And here we're going to discuss the basics of QAnon. Now, 7 months ago, I did a similar video with the same title, but of course, a lot has progressed in 7 months. We learned a lot more about this topic, and with the recent full-blown media attack on Q, I figured this would be a great time to do it again, with so many eyes now on this issue. So in delving into the complexity of this all, I figured the easiest way to do it would just be to go over the who's, what's, where, and where's, why's, and how's of Q. So first, let's talk about what. And the reason I'm starting with what is because I find that so many people are focused on who. Is it this person? Is it this person? But if you focus on what is Q, it gives you a much clearer view of what it's about. So what is Q? It's a public information dissemination program. It's an operation, okay? Let's go ahead and parse these words. Public, because it's open source. The post being done by Q is out there for everybody to read. It's information. Now, mind you, this information is done in a very specific way, for very specific reasons. They're very cryptic statements. Many of them are questions. They're suggestions. They are statements that connect the dots, but they don't tell you the exact answer. Okay? And within this, a lot of disinformation is put out there as well, and that also is necessary. We're going to talk about the reasonings behind the crypticness in a minute. And it's a dissemination program. Again, it's an operation. So, public information dissemination program. Who's doing it? Well, white hats. As per the Q posts themselves, what they've alluded to is that the actual people behind this operation, there's less than 10. 3 are non-military. So, focusing over the who is Q, trying to nailing it on a particular person, that's just kind of wasting time. And it's not delving into the core, into the substance of what Q is. There's a core group of a handful of people that are understanding of this full scope of the operation, okay? Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't hundreds or thousands of people running ops for this core group, but the people that have the full scope, less than 10, okay? And they are primarily consistent, this core Q group and the people that run the ops. Again, it's on a need-to-know basis, so there could be thousands of people running ops for the core Q group and have no idea they're doing it. You got to understand compartmentalization here. So the primary people doing this Q operation consist of those within the NSA and also those within the DoD, military intelligence. So these are the primary groups, the primary white hats or good guys working to do this Q operation. Why? Well, good question. Why did Q jump onto the scene? Again, very important one, very important W here to understand the big picture of it all. Why? Well, a global cabal, deep state, shadow government, Illuminati, call it what you want, a global cabal needs eradication. Okay? Now, very important point right here that I want to make is that a shadow civil war between white hats and black hats, or between an alliance and a deep national security state, or between patriots and just a bunch of assholes, again, call it what you want. This shadow civil war has been raging for, at least in this country, America, decades. Okay? This is nothing new. Q isn't a new idea in terms of good guys fighting bad guys behind the scenes. Okay? The thing about Q is that it's just warning us now, because this war is about to get to a head. Shit is about to hit the fan. Okay? So the white hats behind the scenes, what they needed to do was to find a way to alert the public that shit was about to go down. So what they did is said, okay, let's do this Q operation. We'll make it open source. We'll will put a bunch of statements out there. We'll get people to research themselves as to what's going on. We're going to completely catalyze a small portion of the public who's awakened and aware enough to see what's going on and understand these Q posts. We're going to catalyze them to start having them wake up their friends and family, local communities, and the greater society. So when, say, mass arrests are starting to occur against this global cabal, society isn't going to freak out. It's not going to delve into chaos. It's going to be a very smooth continuity from old paradigm to new paradigm. You see? Because the thing is, going between old paradigm and new paradigm, it's going to be some stuff that needs to happen. There's going to be some sweeping, some swamp draining that needs to occur. Now, if there wasn't Q, if we didn't have a public information dissemination program to outlay this for us, to warn us about this shadow civil war about to go overt, well, that transition from old to new, the getting rid of this cabal, that'd be a very tough process. Okay, so that's why Q need to be done, to get rid of this deep state that's been infiltrating this country for, decades, if not centuries. Eisenhower tried to warn us about it in his farewell speech. Beware of the military-industrial complex. JFK tried to do something about it, but of course, Reagan tried to do something about it, but they put him into submission too, much like they put Eisenhower into submission. And now at this point in time, we have a very important opportunity in Donald Trump to have somebody in the presidential office with no strings attached from rogue intelligence agencies, from bad actors, from the deep state. So now we have another grand opportunity that we've never had since probably JFK to do this, to get rid of the depths. You got to understand how deep the corruption is in all of these control systems, to get rid of this corruption, okay? And we are at a much better point than we ever have been in our history to do that. And it's about to occur, again, which is why Q is so important, to warn us about it. How is this Q operation being done? Anonymous online posting boards. Originally, the people behind Q began posting on 4chan on October 29th, 2017. Now, initially, people, again, Q had to originally kind of outlay the scenario first, so it was a very slow pace at the beginning. But as people began looking into it and connecting to the dots with it and realizing that it was a white hat operation, essentially speaking to us, there began to be a lot of attacks on 4chan, on the particular boards that Q was posting on, okay? And that required Q to then have to move from 4chan to another anonymous posting board called 8chan, because there's just been a lot of infiltration and skullduggery stuff going on. But that was how it was done, as anonymous online posting boards. And now let's get into the discussion of why it needs to be cryptic, and why, and also the legitimacy. That's something I haven't touched on yet. So how do we know that Q is legit, and why are they talking to us in such weird cryptic ways? Why doesn't, if it is some, high level place sources within the military and the presidential administration, why don't they just say it? And how do we know they're legit? Good questions. Well, first of all, they can't just say it for many reasons. One is national security, right? There's particular reasons they can't just come out and tell us the facts. And secondly is, again, let's get back into the why. Why did it happen? Well, we need to wake the public up. If you just give somebody the answers, you're not going to make them as much of an expert in a particular field or subject as if the person went and figured it all out for themselves, okay? So this Q operation was meant to create a group within society of experts about these sorts of topics. So that way, when we do talk to our friends and family and local community about these things, we know damn well what's going on, okay? So again, that's why it needs to be cryptic. It makes us do the research, makes us the experts. And how do we know it's legit? Well, there's two ways. One way is through foreknowledge. Foreknowledge meaning that those behind Q will put out a piece of information or a suggestion or a statement, and then something will happen just a short while later, proving that this Q group had some sort of behind-the-scenes foreknowledge of event that was about to occur. First example, good example, was Saudi Arabia, the corruption purge that occurred in early November last year. And this was one of the very first pieces of foreknowledge because Q started posting on October 29th. It was about November 1st or 2nd that within the Q post, they started mentioning Saudi Arabia, suggesting looking at the connections between Saudi Arabia and, say, the Clinton Foundation or other bad actors on this side of the water. And then just 2 days later, we had that massive corruption purge occur over in Saudi Arabia over November 4th and 5th. A bunch of the corrupt princes arrested. Prince Al-Luweed, I can never say his name, Al-Luweed was one of them. And that dude has direct connects to the Clinton Foundation and corporations, especially media corporations in America. So again, foreknowledge right there. There's been foreknowledge of the North Korea situation. Q essentially stating that North Korea made a deal with the White Hats, with the Trump administration, and their strings were cut. The rogue intelligence agencies, the CIA, was not able to have their puppet in North Korea anymore. So Q has been sort of foretelling that for months before that peace deal. And there's been some other things as well. So there's foreknowledge. And number two, the second way that this group lets us know the legitimacy of this operation is through confirmations. So there's been hundreds of these over the months. And on one hand, if you don't understand Q, you're never going to see the confirmation. They're so subtle and covert the way they do them, because they have to be. But if you understand this this big picture, then you see these confirmations and they're just plain as day to you. For instance, we might have a particular statement or line that was written in a post by Q, and then just a short while later, whether it was a few minutes or a couple hours, you will see that exact statement show up, say, in a presidential tweet, or maybe a tweet from the official Department of Defense Twitter page. Or we've had some confirmations where Donald Trump has been giving a speech on a stage, and you can see, plain as day, him do a air hand cue, right? Also, I mean, recently, the confirmations have gotten much more obvious, because at the beginning when this first started, they were much more covert. Again, not very many people knew about Q. A lot of people were still scratching their heads trying to piece it all together, and the confirmations were a little more subtle. Now they're much more overt, such as somebody wearing a Q shirt at a rally. Donald Trump walks out, boom, points right at the shirt. That's one. Just a couple weeks ago, there was a video posted whereby somebody was holding a honk for Q sign as the presidential motorcade was going down the road somewhere. And what happened? Honk, honk, honk. Right as they passed the person holding up this big old sign right next to the road. So again, these confirmations are getting much more numerous and much more obvious because of how many more people are looking at this now and how many more skeptics. I understand skepticism. There's going to be a lot of skeptics delving into this and be like, I don't know, is it controlled opposition? Is it too good to be true? How do we know it's legit? So that's why these confirmations have to just get so much more obvious until finally Donald Trump drops the ball and says, oh, Q is this and this and this, and completely validates it. But until we get to that lid-blowing validation there, we need the confirmations to become more obvious for the skeptics and for all the people out there completely all this going over their head. Then they see those obvious confirmations and they're like, holy crap, there might be something to this, right? And then lastly, where is the internet? That's it, just the beauty of the internet, man. The bad guys, the bad actors, they tried to utilize the internet as a tool to strengthen their own control over our power structures, but we just flipped that right back around and used it against them. They tried to create these social media apps to harvest our data and to track us. We use social media to spread memes and spread information and wake the people up with. So it's a beauty of a tool that has truly transformed, revolutionized our society. And really, if you want to get a little deeper into it, what the internet is, it is a binary form of a collective consciousness, right? It's a true morphogenic field that you can put data out there and it's boom, it's out there, it's gonna go. And yeah, you can try to do some encryption and keep data safe and secure on the internet, but again, with certain tools out there, like say those that the white hats have access to, nothing is safe out there on the internet. You gotta understand that too. Don't let it scare you, but understand it's just, you gotta be open and honest and authentic and transparent, because the internet is a form of a binary, of a mechanical collective consciousness, very similar to our own collective consciousness that doesn't require wires and computers and whatnot, but just mind to mind, individual mind to collective mind. But that is a philosophical conversation for another time. So that's pretty much it. The what, who, why, how, when, and where of Q. It is a public information dissemination program and operation done by the white hats, by elements within our intelligence agencies that want better for the world, and within our military, and they have connections, yes, to the Trump administration. They're working to take down this global cabal that needs eradication, but luckily we're at the very, very end. In fact, I would say the Q operation was done at a particular time to note the beginning of the end. And right now, we're almost at the end of the end, right? It was done on anonymous online posting boards, like I said, about 9 months ago as the taping of this video, and it was done on the internet to wake us all the heck up. And what a beautiful job it's doing. So that's Q. Again, this video would be very important to understand this whole topic. It's only going to get more popular. It's only going to get more intense. More people are going to be wondering. So familiarize with yourself. You know, you're going to be a light for a lot of darkness out there if you understand this. So spread that light. Done.